I was going to St. Mark Methodist Church, and we had an open house for servicemen every Sunday. And I just kind of got interested in the service, decided I might as well join them because a lot of people were. So when I actually did it, I didn't tell anybody. I just joined. And then, of course, there's a period you have to wait till they call you up after you join. So I went home and to tell them that I was joining the Navy, and all my mother said was, well, if I was your age, I'd do the same thing. So I had a blessing anyway. I just always liked boats and things, and you can see I like lighthouses. I've got them everywhere. And that's just what I wanted. So I chose the Navy. When I was in boot camp, I went to the Bronx in New York at Hunter College. That's where we were stationed, actually on VE Day. And the next day we got Liberty and we went into New York, and it was still celebrating. We were just looking. It was so exciting. Everybody was excited, of course, because the war was over in Europe and we had something to celebrate. So we just had a really good time. Then I went to Bethesda, Maryland for the hospital corps training. And then when I was finished at Bethesda, we had a choice of where to go, and Key West was one of them. Well, I've always wanted to go to Key West, so I just went to Key West, which turned out to be a very good choice because that was a fun place to be stationed. The Naval Hospital was right off, it was about the first thing you came to when you came across the way to get to Key West. We lived and our barracks were, like we had the hospital and then the officers' barracks, and then there was a lagoon between us. On the other side was the Waves barracks. We always had fun because we would kind of entertain or be with the servicemen and the sick ones, and we'd try to help them jolly up. Some of them were really bad off, and some people thought it was not very nice for me to go in joking with them, but I think they enjoyed it. You know, they couldn't do anything, some of them. They were really, really bad off. We had combat veterans in there, and it was sad that some of them would be there a long while. You know, some of them just didn't recover, and I've often thought what a loss it was, because those particular people may have been able to do really good things, but there were a lot of them that just couldn't make it. I was working at the lab there in that hospital all the time, and that's where I met my husband, in the hospital. One day we get these requests to collect blood and come back and work on it. And there was one I remember that day, there was one for a Mr., the officers were Mr., you know, in the Navy, they were Mr. And I had this order for a Mr. Taylor. I took my tray and went up to the officers' quarters and asked for Mr. Taylor, and there he was. And I said, I've got to get some blood, and the nurse said, he's got to go to X-ray. And I said, I need to get the blood now since I'm here. And she said, well, he's going to X-ray. And he said, what do I do? I said, I've got the needle, sit down. So he sat down. First time I ever saw him, I stuck him in the arm and took his blood. One day I was in the barracks, and a friend of mine said, hey, would you come in tonight and date this Mr. Taylor? I said, well, I don't know, who is he? And she said, he's that guy out there in the lagoon, and they had a boat that, we had boats that they could use and play around with, and he was just scooting around with this boat. And I said, oh yeah, I'll go out with him. So that was our first date. We were together most of the time after that. Everett entered when he was 17, and he wanted to be a pilot. So he joined the Navy Air Force. And he went in to the service, but unfortunately, there were so many that wanted to be in the Air Force. And he said it got where when they finally got to fly, that they would just fly maybe once a week. And he said he got so tired of that he just gave up and switched from the Air Force to the fleet. One day, he took me down to his ship, so I got to go through his ship. And as we left, we saw where the fellow that was on the post, and he had written on there, "Mr. Taylor's wave had just come ashore." And I thought that was kind of funny, Mr. Taylor's wave. He did learn to fly, and afterwards he flew, and his company had a plane, and we took family trips in the plane. He got out of the service in June, and he asked me to marry him, gave me a ring, and he left in June, and I had to stay in through August. So we had a long-distance romance there. And then I got out in August, and we were married on September 10th. It was just a very exciting time to know the war was over and it had been going on for so long. To think about what it means to be in the military and to help being in the hospital corps. That was my main thing, was to help others. I mean, that's what we did. Try to ease their pain, which sometimes was pretty bad pain, I can tell. We were married September the 10th, and then both of us enrolled in Kansas State, and I graduated in 47, I think, and he graduated in 48. Both of us won the GI Bill, or we wouldn't have been able to go. That GI Bill was wonderful, because think of all the thousands of young people that got a college education that would not have had one otherwise. And so that kind of helped the country get started. So when we graduated, he got a job with the Corps of Engineers, and we went down to Memphis. And I got a job at a military hospital, and I worked in the lab there. He got a job with an engineering firm in Kansas City. And so we moved up to Overland. We lived in Overland Park. And my daughter was born, and she was 2 when our first son was born. And he was 18 months when our second son was born. So we had 3 little ones. So we had 3 children to begin with, and then 6 grandchildren, and then 11 great-grandchildren. My daughter, Georgia, died at the age of 53, and she had 3 children, and now has 6 grandchildren. In June of 2013, he had prostate cancer and was doing fairly well, but then it went into the bones. Hospice took him into the care center, and he lived about a week after that. We were married in September of 1946. Almost 67 years. I live in Lakeview Village, which is a retirement community. It's a good place to live for people in my circumstances. The bus comes by and takes me down to eat, and then brings me home. There's always entertainment. You can go if you want to or not, whatever. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Well, I don't want us to be forgotten, and I don't think we are. Having known the ones that really were in the war, I mean, they should not be forgotten. And I would want for people to realize that, to know that these people really, they gave and gave, and they're still giving, some of them. Of course, World War II, there are not many of us left. Now, people have called us the greatest generation. And I don't know whether we are or not, but I think it was pretty great.